Okay, so welcome to the webinar, and thank you for joining us for this, the first of a three-part vision showcase series with CNIB Frontier Accessibility and their partners. Today, we're joined by Eschenbach and CNIB Smartlife. This webinar is hosted by the Network of Assistive Technologists on this Friday, the 9th of April, 2021. Please join me in welcoming today's presenters. And first up, we have Andrea Voss. Andrea has been helping blind or partially sighted students for over 20 years. As an expert in assistive devices and technologies, Andrea is the overall educational lead and manages support for English-speaking students in Ontario and Atlantic Canada. Joining Andrea, we have Mai Hai from CNIB Smartlife. Mai leads the Smartlife Center teams across Canada, allowing her to put her passion for and knowledge of assistive technologies to great use. And joining us from Eschenbach, a CNIB partner, is Ryan Heeney. Since 2004, Ryan has enabled dozens of Canadian eye care practices to offer low vision care, along with providing training to hundreds of eye care and rehab professionals. So welcome, Andrea, Mai, and Ryan, and thank you for joining us today. So with that said, and those introductions out of the way, I will now hand the presentation over to Andrea, Mai, and Ryan as they start their screen sharing and bring us information. So go ahead, folks.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Just give me one moment as I pull this up. Okay, can you see me okay on the other side?
Yep, everything seems to be coming through. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks, Doug, and thanks to everybody who's joining us today. I really appreciate it, especially on a Friday afternoon. I have to admit, I've been a little jealous. I've seen the N.O.A.T group over the last few years sharing information, which I think is just of tremendous value, I'm sure, within your team. And on the outside, there's so much information with regards to AT that some or a lot of that is over my head, but it's always interesting to kind of read and see what's going on and know what products are available. So it was really interesting to me when it came up that low vision was something that those of your group wanted to hear more about. And so we all jumped at the chance. So I'm looking forward to getting into this, giving you a little bit more insight into Eschenbach's products and services, as well as a new partnership with the CNIB. And of course, Mai and Andrea will jump in to give you some more insight from the CNIB side and Smartlife and Frontier. Okay, so here's what's on the agenda. And I must admit, when I first spoke to Doug, we went through a lot of things that we thought should be covered. And in talking to Doug a little bit more, he brought up some very interesting things that I could certainly talk about that I added to this. So the agenda is big. At certain times, I may just kind of skip through some material to make sure that we're on point, but hopefully that we'll have time for questions in the end where you can jump in and maybe get some expansion on anything that we may have touched on. But first thing I want to do is just go through some general low vision knowledge and overview. I never want to assume that everybody completely understands the whole low vision realm and everything it involves and some of the definitions and demographics, but I'll transition into explaining a little bit more about this Eschenbach CNIB partnership that you may or may not have heard about. And then I'll let Andrea and Mai take over to speak more about Frontier and CNIB Smartlife. And then I'll take over again and walk you through some of the range of Eschenbach video magnifiers that are available for your students and some other products, analog products and other services that may be of interest that you may not have been aware of, including this house call program that fits into that telehealth realm and allows you to remotely meet with students as a possibility. And then, of course, just finishing out by covering eye care and rehab in general and who is in the community and on your team to kind of support outside of what you can bring. So hopefully we'll give some insight there as well. Okay, so some definitions first off. What is low vision? So typically when I'm in front of a crowd, I will ask and see what I get as responses. And over the years, I've gotten every possible response you can imagine. And there seems to be, you know, some right answers, but there's a lot of right answers. This first one here is really what I describe or I use as my definition whenever somebody asks, which is irreversible vision loss that cannot be corrected with glasses, contacts, or through the use of therapeutics or surgical treatment. So typically, if glasses don't work, surgery can't help. we need a low vision aid. And so that's where we step in. And we can break that down into acuities when we're talking about low vision as well. Acuity sometimes, it really depends. I don't like using acuities as a definition because quite honestly, somebody can be better than 20/40, but not see a certain size print. And so we have some things that can maybe help out in those instances. And just more from the demographic side, I didn't want to put a lot of stats in here because we know a lot of these things are a growing problem, but estimated 1.5 million low vision patients and growing in Canada. So certainly something that needs to be addressed. This is a snapshot really of the primary visually impaired market. And typically what I'm dealing with more so, just because of the sheer numbers, is seniors. And so I see a lot of seniors, and these are typically the eye conditions that we see. Macular degeneration probably being about 90% of what we see. And certainly some of the others, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma and retinitis pigmentosa, as well as cataracts, all fall into this category where we can provide some help with some of these visual aids. The one big thing in these pictures that I'm showing here is that they all show some portion of vision that can be used. And so when I get the opportunity to work with a clinician and their patients, it's always about that motivating factor that if they've been told they've got an eye condition and that they're going blind or that they're blind, and I've heard that, I want to let them know that, hey, there's vision there and we can work with it. And this is what we're trying to promote. When we're talking more about who you're seeing on a day-to-day basis in the low vision realm, when we're talking about students in that younger market, again, I've worked with school boards over the years and through some of these value-added resellers like Frontier and others, and but primarily who I'm dealing with is seniors. So I had to reach out to a few people to learn a little bit more about what are some of the primary conditions that are out there. And I reached out to one of our clinical consultants, and he's been doing this for about 40 years. And he gave me some insight into a lot of the eye conditions he sees in the younger population that are probably familiar to a lot of you working more closely with them than I do. But he's listed some of them here that I'll read out. Complications of retinopathy of prematurity, optic nerve hypoplasia, albinism, of course, aniridia, congenital nystagmus, Stargardt's, which is similar to macular degeneration, and some other rare disorders that we see. And then, of course, in talking back and forth with Doug, he brought up digital eye strain and headaches. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So the last point here is, what is low vision care? So low vision care, quite simply, is a service provided by eye care or vision rehab specialists or professionals that helps maximize that remaining vision in those that are visually impaired. And it mentions here that it includes typically a low vision exam or assessment or evaluation, and the dispensing of low vision aids to get them back doing what they want to be able to do. And it may involve referral out to other professionals, including assistive technology support, of course, rehabilitation. We know about orientation mobility training and other services that certainly are accessible. Okay, so moving over to the Eschenbach CNIB partnership, and you may have heard about this partnership. Maybe it's news to some or most of you. So we've always essentially been partnered with the CNIB. Obviously, Eschenbach we've been around 100 years manufacturing products and supplying them to the market. And CNIB is certainly a location across Canada where you can purchase these products should you need them. And so we've always worked closely together on strategy and how can we make these products more accessible and get more out there to more people. And in always talking in these terms, a couple of years ago about, COVID's made things go fast but slow, but I guess it has been 2 years ago since we started discussions towards this partnership. It was more strategy towards the video market. And so the way Eschenbach kind of worked with this was we always worked through value-added resellers that provided service, training, support that students would need, or school boards, colleges, universities, and that we couldn't necessarily always provide because we're focused on eye care as well. So we always worked in tandem. So when we started speaking to the CNIB about this, we started figuring out that, hey, there's a way we could do this and do this better and work together to make it happen. And so last year in February, of course, end of February, just before the pandemic hit, we signed this partnership. that, again, I'll explain in a little more detail, but obviously I'll have Andrea and Mai kind of explain a little bit more with regards to the CNIB Smartlife Frontier and how all these parts work together. I thought I'd step back and just kind of give you an idea of Eschenbach's mission and how it relates to what the CNIB mission is as well. So Eschenbach's mission is to provide our customers with vision-enhancing products that improve their safety, productivity, independence, and quality of life. And those four things I have said thousands of times in my career because that's really where we focus our attention. The CNIB mission is to change what it is to be blind through innovative programs and powerful advocacy that enable Canadians impacted by blindness to live the lives they choose. So there's, of course, a lot of synergy there. And again, this relationship has been great and has only been strengthened by this new partnership. So what does this new partnership mean? And how does it affect you? So now CNIB has exclusivity across Canada to our video range of products. And this is to business entities as well as business to education. So whereas before we would kind of work in tandem or sometimes work direct, now we've just handed it all over and are providing that additional training and support to make it happen so that we can get to more people. And the CNIB is certainly set up to do so now with some of the more recent changes that, again, Mai and Andrea will speak to. This also means prime positioning of Eschenbach video magnifier products. So prior to this, it was a little bit sporadic. Maybe you could get to see certain products in certain locations, maybe not, depending on whether they were available, whether they were prominently positioned or on display. And so now they will be better positioned and readily available for people to touch, see, and get a feel for. Demonstration units are a big part of that. So with this partnership, there's locations now across Canada in Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton and Regina and Halifax and a lot of places in Ontario, Winnipeg, that now have the full range of solutions to be able to show the full video range of video magnifiers to those who may need them. So again, just increased accessibility. And then, of course, I'll expand on this a little bit, but training and support. So we've always worked closely with the CNIB in terms of training, even more so during COVID when the lockdown happened, as we have a lot of access to training that we provide. But certainly that's been increased and pointed in terms of providing the proper training that's needed for this particular partnership. And then lastly, a marketing program. So of course, getting the products out there is one thing, letting people know that they're out there and where to find them and how, that's always a work in progress. And so there's, again, things that we're doing, working together to make sure that that happens. So when I talk about some of these products, this is the list of our range of video products if you're not as familiar. So I'll talk about these as I get further into this, but the SmartLux Digital, MobileLux Digital Touch, VisaLux Digital, and VisaLux Digital XL are all portable video magnifiers. And then the Vario Digital FHD and Advanced model are desktop systems, but they are transportable as well. The warranty is mentioned here. So just so you're aware, again, this is a question that comes up often, especially within these education markets. So it's a 2-year warranty. And the way that works is if there is an issue or a defect, we'll actually send a replacement for that unit and pay UPS to get it back. And there's a warranty card that comes in there. And if the student or whoever the end user is fills out that card and returns it to us, there's an additional 6 months of warranty that we provide. So there's 2.5 years of warranty coverage free of charge. And then in education markets, typically, there's more of a want for an extended warranty as well. And so there is options for a 1-year extended warranty within all of these different products. So you do have the capability to have 3.5 years of peace of mind with those products with that coverage. So in terms of the partnership and what this means for you, I've mentioned it throughout, but increased access to new technologies. And this is very exciting for me as this happened, obviously for the CNIB, and more so for the end users that need these services and products. Being able to see them no matter where you are, having access to them, very important. Increased training and support. So I touched on this a little bit. So this is a forte of what we provide as a program or service from Eschenbach. We We provide a lot of training and support. And in talking to Mai yesterday, we were talking about the Brightspace component. So as part of this partnership, the training was provided for all of these locations. And we have 12 hours of training that can be provided. And a lot of this has been recorded and placed into an internal training, like an e-training site called Brightspace for the CNIB staff and those who are directly working with the products. And Mai can probably expand on what the coaches are doing and how they're involved and how that training will benefit the end users. And then, of course, the benefits through the CNIB and Frontier, which I'll leave Andrea to speak to a little bit more because there are some benefits there. And then quicker delivery from CNIB to its clients. So the CNIB has gone through a lot of positive change over the last several years, but more recently in terms of putting structures in place so that products can get to those who need them quicker and sooner and more efficiently. So what does this mean for students in the end? Of course, most important, greater access. So I can't say it enough, just having access to those products, being able to try them, demo them, get a sense for whether that product works for them in any particular instance or not, or whether there's another choice out there that may be better. Choices obviously within our range or some of the other speakers that will be coming in the next couple of Fridays. Certainly there's a lot of choice and students will have greater access. And then enhanced service and efficiency. And again, this just comes with the territory in terms of that increased expertise, that additional training, so that these products are known inside and out by those who are working with them. Okay, so I'll take a pause from me talking and hand it over to Andrea Voss, who will give you a little bit more insight into the Frontier perspective from here.
Thank you, Ryan. So I think just to provide some clarity, when we think of, I think we have an idea of who the CNIB is. Ryan provided the mission statement, and there might be some confusion as to CNIB Frontier. We understand some of you may have an understanding or some sort of reference to the word frontier. Frontier Computing was a company that used to be in Ontario, and it was around for 30 years, and it provided products and technology and some services to Canadians, blind and low vision Canadians, businesses, education, et cetera. Well, Frontier closed its doors in December of 2018. And what the CNIB did is they acquired that name Frontier and had some of the staff come over to transition and become CNIB Frontier Accessibility, which is a part of their social enterprise branch. So Frontier Accessibility is an organization or a department within an organization that is supposed to increase the access to accessible solutions for Canadians. And we are doing that for businesses as well as in education. So if you could please go to the next slide, Ryan.
Yep.
And, so Frontier Accessibility, we have this new act in Canada as of June 2019. And the Accessibility Act forces people to think or consider about accessibility, providing some standards and guidelines. But really, we would like to think of accessibility as more of a philosophy instead of a set of standards. And we're hoping, as part of the mission, that we need to shift our collective mindset away from the notion that accessibility is something for people with disabilities to the idea that accessibility is something that really benefits everyone. So we're all about accessibility and inclusion. And with Frontier, the idea behind Frontier is to make those solutions more available to Canadians across the country. And Ryan, if you could go to the next slide. So we do more than just sell products and technology. We have different areas, different solutions that we provide, workplace accommodations, digital solutions, website audits, navigation and wayfinding, support and training and communication materials. We also have staff in Western Canada. We support Eastern Canada, Quebec, Ontario. So we've got that increased ability to be able to serve the community better. Also, to let you know, of course, that the CNIB is obviously a nonprofit organization, and Frontier Accessibility, we are a branch of that nonprofit organization. So instead of continuing to only rely on philanthropy to fund those programs and services that the CNIB has across the country. We are helping in that all proceeds from any sales, any profits, they're invested right back into local CNIB programs. So when a sale is made in a particular area of the country, essentially that postal code is recognized, and that sale is helping fund programs in that very area. So meaning that you're helping Canadians with sight loss live the lives they choose. I will also say that one other value-added aspect to purchasing through Frontier Accessibility is that through the CNIB, we actually do not charge any HST on vision products or services to anyone. So that could be a business or an individual. So, and I think that the next slide is the segue for my friend and colleague, Mai. Hi, to speak.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Mai, and I am the Smart Life Head Coach for CNIB Foundation. As the Smart Life Head Coach, I'm in charge of making sure that, customer care and customer experience is really provided at its finest throughout all of our Smart Life locations all across Canada. So with 16 storefront locations and 8 hubs across Canada, we really are Canada's largest retail store, which not only houses our everyday low vision aids, but we really strive to be the go-to spot for educational and supportive needs when it comes to assistive technology and new accessible products. For those who are unfamiliar with Smart Life, we thought it was important that as our organization moved past our 100th birthday, which was a big milestone, that we gave our previous shop CNIB a renewed focus along with a fresh look in terms of branding that aligned with our strategic initiatives of live, play, work, learn, and tech. And from that, the CNIB Smart Life was created. We really wanted to focus on the user and customer service experience for our community when it came to retail. And through serving our low vision and blind community, we realized that there was a gap in the demand of understanding of technology advances within that assistive technology space. So really our aha moment, which is represented by that light bulb in our CNIB Smart Life branding, was how do we bring technology to our clients and enable them to really experience all the new technologies firsthand and really become their go-to source with the latest and greatest. So our Smart Life centers, they currently hold a holistic feel, which not only still houses our everyday low vision necessities, but it really encompasses more high-tech devices. And through our vast partnerships with our vendors like Eschenbach, that carry assistive technology products for our low vision and blind community, we have actually built really tight relationships with our vendors, which allows us to work with our vendors to really stay updated with new and upcoming devices, as well as have them really equip our Smart Life coaches in our centers with that knowledge to be able to further help our clientele address their needs in order to really facilitate them to choose that right product to purchase. So with processes already in place within our organization for provincial and federal funding, like the ADP program, which is the Assistive Devices program in Ontario, our STEPS program in Alberta, which is our Specialized Technical Equipment program, and our SAIL program in Saskatchewan, our Saskatchewan Aids to Independent Living, we really do have the resources in place to really help facilitate with students that are looking for outside funding or grants that may be available for them. In addition, we also intend to have more exposure and information on grants and funding opportunities that our students can really can be eligible for within our Smart Life website. I'm a true believer of knowledge is power, so we really look forward to be able to connect with those looking to find that right product and help them move forward with their assistive technology purchase so that they can feel confident and liberated to continue with their future studies. Also, we recognize that, with the situation that we're currently in with COVID, we also had to really think of ways to really shift our business as well. So we are currently exploring how we can really better our customer service experience with rolling out an in-home experience with the products that we carry. So really having the clients and participants and students get that chance to really try that high-tech device that we carry in the comfort of their own homes. All around, we're truly excited for this opportunity to speak with you and to provide information on how our Smart Life centers across Canada can really help with one's journey to academic success. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back over to Ryan.
Great, thanks, Mai. And as I mentioned at the end here, I'm hoping that there will be time for questions. So for Andrea or Mai or myself. Okay, so now I'm going to move over into the part of the agenda that covers the range of products. And I want this to be more informational, just so that, again, you have a better sense for what products are available, what specific features might fit better for a particular student that you may have, and overall just give you more insight into the products, how they're used, and some of the benefits that they offer. So in terms of our video magnifiers as a whole, they're really designed, as it says here, to help expand your low vision product offerings to maximize opportunity for successful client outcomes in a manner that makes economic sense. So when we work through partners like the CNIB, this is really what we're looking to do from the top level down. Just to give you a bit of insight into Eschenbach as a company, if you're not as familiar, this is usually a diagram that helps explain how we're addressing certain needs in the market. And this is broken up by age at the bottom here. It mentions the age 25 to 85, although these products will all intersperse between each of these different age groups. However, some of them more so than others. We have a sister company, Tura, that handles eyewear, where you see this prescription eyewear arrow across the bottom. Once we move into that realm where we're into our 40s and we typically start seeing issues with our muscles not being strong enough to see things that close, and we become presbyopic, we need to get into some reader categories, which are a little stronger than we typically need. So that's kind of the next realm here. And then as we move up in these last two categories, we can kind of break them out, low vision, in terms of lower powered magnifiers, which entails products that are usually require less training, are a little bit easier to learn on your own, and typically available in lower powers where there's a lot of choice at that level. And then when we need more comprehensive access to products, whether it be bioptic telescopes, video magnifiers, or whatever else, where you would go to a clinic such as the CNIB or other that offers more comprehensive service, where again you have access to the full range of products for those at every level that may be requiring assistance. This is a diagram that shows the range of the Eschenbach video magnifiers that are available. So we can see in the diagram below here that they're broken up into these categories as we define them: handheld, portable, and desktop. Although most of the ones in the handheld category I call portable anyways. But over on the handheld side, I had mentioned them earlier, we have the SmartLux Digital, which is a 5-inch screen on the bottom left. And just above that is the Mobilux Digital Touch HD, which very similar, a little bit smaller screen, 4.3 inch, and it has that more of a magnifier design to it where you have that static handle on the end. We move into that portable video magnifier category, as it's called, where we have the Vispero Digital HD, which is a 7-inch model, as well as the Vispero Digital XL FHD, which is a 12-inch model touchscreen. So it works more like a tablet, a little more familiar and intuitive in terms of pinching and stretching to change the magnification and adjust the image than some of the others, which are more just using buttons and a user interface that requires button structures. And then over on the right, we have the desktop category, where our desktop is the Vario Digital FHD, and we also now have the Vario Digital FHD Advanced model. And I'll give you some more insight into the features that some of these have across all categories. So the first thing that's mentioned here is the handheld video magnifiers, which are pictured and what they're used for typically. So for students and seniors alike, reading books, magazines, newspapers, looking at charts and any other graphs that we may want to see, of course. And then, of course, they're convenient for writing notes or doing homework. And certainly from going class to class, having something that's compact and able to fit into your bag and travels lightly is always a bonus for all age groups, and especially if you're on the go like students are. When we look at the portable desktop video magnifier, the Vispero Digital as pictured here, certainly many of those uses are the same as what we see in the handheld and portable categories, but of course, maybe a higher range of magnification and sometimes more feature-rich capability to it, but reading textbooks and doing homework just the same, writing notes, creating lists, completing paperwork, doing schoolwork, crafts, and hobbies, of course, with the space that you have under there to get your hands free. Personal care, always something important, and that's sometimes missed. And in the design of some of these things, certainly it's addressed here. And then, of course, viewing distant objects. Again, all age groups, but something that you see typically more so with student needs, being able to see across a classroom or perhaps the smart board or the teacher up front or professor. So some of the features that I'll take you through here, just to, again, note some of the differences and, again, point to some of those benefits that might relate to some of the students you see now or into the future. Touchscreen capability. So the Mobilux Digital Touch pictured on the top here, it's more of a touchscreen user interface. So you can adjust the magnification by clicking on the yellow button. You can adjust the contrast modes and colors by clicking on the red button, and you can freeze frame by clicking on the blue button. And then internally, there's a menu where you can do additional things for those who may need them. Whereas we look at the Vispero Digital XL FHD down below, as I mentioned, it works more like the familiarity of a tablet, where you can pinch and stretch and move your finger left to right to move the image left to right or up and down or even angled. And obviously looking at photos and all those other modes I mentioned, contrast modes, line guides, and orientation features, those sorts of things are all included as well. Fold-out stand designs. So it mentions here the ease of writing underneath the device. And I've been around long enough to see all sorts of different designs over my career intended for writing. And on the far left here, you can see both positions for the Smartlux Digital, where it lies flat, kind of giving you that focal distance so you can use it for longer periods of reading. Or you can flip it to a little midway point there that gives you more room, as you can see in the middle photo, where it allows you to get a pen underneath for doing homework, writing, any sorts of tasks that way. So again, very applicable to student needs. And then on the far right, we see again the Vispero Digital XL that allows for room underneath to certainly do a lot of these writing tasks as well. And I'll show you some accessory features that even make it easier. Dynamic line scrolling. So this is another feature of some of our products. The Vispero Digital HD is shown here, and the XL version as well. And they have these blue buttons either on the top or the side. And the way I always describe this, for those of you familiar with XY tables and how they work, is it's like a virtual XY table. So if you're reading a newspaper column, for instance, and let's say you're looking at the word "the" and it's on the screen, if I magnify that larger, I may only see the H in the middle of my screen. So now I'm going to have to move it to the right or left to see the T or the E. The way this dynamic line scrolling function works is you don't have to move it at all. You can click on the buttons and it'll click to the right to kind of scroll over to see the E, or you can click to the left and scroll over to see the T. So as you manipulate down a column of a newspaper or magazine, sometimes it's a little easier to just go straight down using the buttons to navigate back and forth. And of course, with the touchscreen on the XL version, you can certainly just do that with your finger by just moving it back and forth. So again, something new that was limiting in the past. Computer and monitor connectivity. So again, seeing how these things have changed over the years from when I first started, when color was the big thing at the time, and that was 2004. And now all of these additional features, it's exciting and it's changing all the time. But you can see a few of the different models mentioned here. The Mobilux Digital Touch HD is unique in the fact that it'll connect to a computer, and it has its own internal software that you can upload. And what it allows you to do is magnify on the screen and use it as almost a secondary tool. So you can use split screen and do data entry or whatever somebody may be using it for, whether as a student or in a workplace or other. And then we have on the right the two Vispero digital models, and there's an HDMI out port on each of these, and you can connect it to an HD TV or a monitor. Most of them have an HDMI input now, which this makes this a lot more of a convenient option for many, especially those who may travel, to just take something portable and compact like this with them. Of course, class to class, using this in that way, or if they're taking it home as well, being able to just plug it into their TV and get that much more magnification, which is really the benefit. The screen size just gives you much more magnification, and the bigger the screen, the more magnification you get with using it this way. And then, of course, distance viewing. So I touched on this a couple of slides before, but there's options, again, to allow you to see at a distance. And we can all think of the applications, and I mentioned a couple of them, certainly for students and others using them this way. And we see the Vispero Digital XL on the left and the Vispero Digital on the right, which both allow for an external camera to be connected. And these are actually just Sony Handycam cameras that can be purchased anywhere. But we have a tripod and the HDMI cord, of course, to make it easy. And again, you can pack these up and take them with you. So it makes for kind of an easy setup and an easy takedown. And then this shows the uniqueness of the desktop video magnifier, the Vispero Digital that I mentioned earlier. So this is a foldable design, and it folds down to a 5-inch height. So there's 3 pictures here that kind of depict, when it's folded straight out and you're using it for reading or other tasks. And then in the middle, it shows you kind of halfway folded down. And then once the camera's folded in and the screen's folded under, it's tucked away to about a 5-inch height from top to bottom. So this way, not only does it alleviate that problem in the past when you had a big workstation in a classroom or even at home and you needed a special space and you needed to be near a plug if it does indeed plug in, those were all limitations. And now somebody can have this sitting up on their desk in the middle of their classroom amongst their peers. And then if they need to take it to another class, fold it down, take it with them. There's a built-in handle on the far right here. And these are all very durable cast aluminum magnesium products that are up against the biggest tests with those who may not be as careful with the products, let's say, as others, as we know. Full HD systems versus HD systems. So this isn't the greatest picture depiction of HD versus FHD. And I'm sure you could all probably teach me more about FHD versus HD. But again, recognizing the fact that this is kind of the direction it's gone over the years is these high definition systems, which were kind of the rage maybe 10 years ago. And then it moved into full HD. And eventually we'll probably see 4K and others. As we get this sharper, clearer, higher resolution image that just makes it that much easier for many of the tasks that we've kind of talked about throughout. Dynamic line scrolling is mentioned here again. This is available on the Vispero Digital model on frozen images that you can scroll along once you've frozen a page to kind of see the whole thing without, again, moving it underneath the device. And then the tilting camera. So when this product first came out, I didn't think this was the greatest feature, but a lot of those I met with, and some of them your peers, one of them actually had mentioned to me, an AT specialist, that this was great. And she actually took the screen, folded it flat, because it pretty much, you can fold it flat. And she said, this is great in a kitchen. If somebody's cooking and they can fold this flat, put their recipes underneath, and then tilt the camera forwards a little bit so they don't have to get right underneath. They can be standing up and doing everything that they're doing. And so I started really seeing what the applications were for this tilting camera. So it tilts back towards the back of the machine to get higher on an article so you can see more of the page that you're looking at. But I think more importantly, you can tilt it towards you. And this camera will actually focus to a point in front of the machine itself, allowing you to do any sort of hobby or task work, or maybe students working with circuitry and that sort of thing, where they may not necessarily, or it may not be conducive to get right underneath the device with your face pressed up against the screen. This way you can get back a little further and still have it in focus. So an interesting feature there. And then, of course, I've mentioned the advanced model throughout, and I'd be remiss if I didn't explain the differences, and they're mentioned here. So the advanced model is available in a couple of different models. There's a base model, advanced version, and then options to add things on. So the first difference I should say is it comes with an external remote control. That allows you to adjust the magnification, change the contrast modes, do that dynamic line scrolling we talked about, or the overview mode, which allows you to come out to a lower magnification to see more of what you're looking at. That can all be done remotely. So again, sitting back and using the remote for that. Dynamic line scrolling on live images, I spoke about that. That's readily available on this design. Mirror mode, so you saw this image earlier of somebody putting on makeup or shaving or any sort of personal hygiene. This can make it easier by just turning the camera towards you, and it'll automatically reverse the image so you can see yourself and again, take care of some of these items yourself. And then the HDMI port and cable, as I mentioned, for distance viewing. So that certainly adds some advantage for those who need it. And then just some other features to mention. There's a blue light filter built into the advanced model. And again, I'll talk a little bit about digital eye strain, but it can reduce the symptoms of digital eye strain. It's more of a yellower image that it creates. And then there's also the option of a battery version. So I mentioned the student being able to sit anywhere in the classroom or in a large room in a university or college or something like that. Again, it can be advantageous. And of course, the XY table. So the XY table allows you to kind of move your material on a sliding table, left, right, up, and down. I see the use of XY tables going away somewhat, or declining in use, I should say, just more so because these portable designs are much lighter in weight when you can fold them down and take them with you. But certainly the option of the XY table is still there. And certainly for those who are used to using it, it's a great benefit. So some accessories. I mentioned there's some accessories to some of these products. The first being attachable bases. So the Mobilux Digital has its own attachable base. This was just to get lower magnifications out of that product because it goes as low as 4 times. This now allows it to go down to 2.5 times, giving a little more leeway there to the end user. And then if we look across at the Vispero Digital and Vispero Digital XL, we have the 2 stands that are designed to give you more space for writing underneath. So you can see a lot of space, especially under the XL version, where you can even get a thick novel under there, flip the pages, and be able to read comfortably. So these provide some benefit as well. Protective bumpers. So this is another accessory that was introduced a few years ago. And just like when you buy your cell phone, you turn and you grab a protective case off the shelf, it's almost automatic. We provided that same option with all of these different devices. I've gone through, at least in the portable category, so that if somebody wants something protective, there's these silicone bumpers, as we call them, that will fit around the outside of the device to hopefully lengthen its life and protect it against bumps and falls. Carrying case. So again, this was in response to some feedback over the years, is all these wires and different things, HDMI cables, my distance camera. I have another magnifier I want to carry with me. Okay, so there's carrying cases now available that fit all of these different devices and make it a little bit easier to take from place to place. And then for the distance capability, again, I mentioned some of these products in terms of the video cameras and applicable plugs and wires and tripods and that sort of thing. And then a magnifier table, should somebody need something that holds it steady, is a little bit adjustable up and down, and rolls. So again, just one-stop shop type idea. So again, wide range of prices listed here. So again, very competitively priced products, and certainly readily available in a lot of different models for whoever may need them for whatever particular task that may come up. Okay. So I promised to speak about analog magnifiers as well, and this could be another 20 slides, but again, on Friday afternoon, I think you'd roll your eyes if I had much more than one. So this is the analog magnifiers, and when we look at how these are broken out, I just picked a few of the favorites among students, and we have near addressed here: distance needs, far distance tasks, and also filters for those with contrast sensitivities and glare issues. And these are some of our most popular products for students. So the Minus Lux on the far left there is an illuminated dome magnifier, especially in Quebec, for whatever reason, through the agencies there, they do a lot of these, but it's an easy to use product for all ages, has a light incorporated into it, like most magnifiers do now. The Easy Pocket is a little bit more discreet. It's credit card size, fits into your pocket, a little easier to take with you. Certainly for those who are a little more self-conscious of using some of these products, it's something that's, again, nice and compact and discreet. The Microlux has always been a tremendous product for students, and we have a range of monoculars available in different powers, but the Microlux is a tiny little monocular telescope just for distance spotting. If the teacher holds something up, they can take a quick peek through their telescope. It actually collapses into itself, and then you can put it back in your pocket. To the right of that is more of a binocularly worn telescope called the Max TV. This is the #1 product on the market. Again, more for home use for students. I don't see a lot of these used in schools. Again, that whole self-conscious aspect comes into play sometimes. And then, of course, when we talk about filters, sometimes filters is the biggest change for a lot in terms of providing that protection against blue light that's causing glare and contrast, and being able to see the foreground from the background, especially in safety situations like stepping up a curb or a flight of stairs, and being able to see that there's actually stairs there. And that's the contrast that we need. So there's items that can help for that. This was one of the ones that Doug had mentioned, and I thought this was great because this is something that's becoming more well-known, and obviously has been talked about a lot. Migraines, post-concussion, some of these other eye conditions that are mentioned here. And there was this research project that I've mentioned down below that was done in Birmingham in the early 90s with kids. And they tested what's called an FL41 tint. It's a rose tint, and shown here on the right. And what it showed is that it improved light sensitivity and lessened the frequency of migraines for some of these kids. And from there, it just kind of took on a life of its own. Somebody had brought up this tint to me a few years ago at a trade show, maybe 10 years ago, and I'd never heard of it. And now it's hard to go into a location that specializes in some of these things that hasn't heard about it or found success. A lot of it anecdotal and subjective to this point, other than the research that was done. But again, something to be aware of, and certainly you can do some further research. And then the other topic that Doug had highlighted again, that's something that's probably every second article I get now is about blue light. And so this HEV, or high energy visible blue light, has become a bit of an issue in discussion, especially with how much we're using electronic devices day to day, especially now with COVID and more people working from home. So just to kind of explain quickly here, sunlight contains red, orange, yellow, green, and blue light rays. And we can kind of see the visible light spectrum, or the light spectrum as a whole, down below here. This creates what we call white light or sunlight. And there's different energies or powers of these wavelengths, and it's related to the wavelength of that light. So as it mentions here, light rays that have relatively longer wavelengths contain less energy, and those with short wavelengths have more energy. And this is blue light. This is why the sky is blue. It's the color that's reflected off all of the material in the air. So it's same sort of idea. It bounces around a little bit more. So there's some risk to blue light. They're still studying it to see. But certainly digital eye strain is something that's been mentioned quite often in relation to HEV blue light exposure. And what it mentions here is scatters more easily. It's not as easily focused. It emits significant amounts of blue light from digital devices, and reduces contrast and can contribute to eye strain. So some of this research has shown that lenses that block blue light with wavelengths less than 450 nanometers, which is that middle part of that light spectrum I just showed, can increase contrast significantly. So we see more and more of glasses available like this, and more even prescription glasses being dispensed with these coatings applied to them so that they filter out the blue light. Again, these are something that are readily available, and you just keep hearing more and more about, but good to know if this topic tends to come up. Okay, and then the last service I wanted to talk about was the Haus called Telelowvision program. So this, as it mentions here, is a first of its kind telehealth program, and it allows you to, or the clinician, to diagnose or provide a low vision assessment remotely, while also allowing for a product trial and for the patient to choose which one's going to work best for them. So the way this actually works is especially during COVID, but prior to COVID, there was always a need for this type of service. You know, sometimes people couldn't find transportation to get to a low vision clinic. They weren't near a low vision clinic. Weather can be an issue. So this way, what it allows those to do who use it is to have Eschenbach send all of the diagnostic equipment that they would need in this, what we call the eye doctor kit. And this is allows somebody to do an assessment remotely. The big difference here is the two-way communication within these. So we have an iPad that comes included in this kit with one app uploaded to it, Google Meet. And what that allows you to do is have a remote session where you can meet with your clinician, your AT specialist, your rehab specialist, so they can see what you're doing, recognize what you're having issues with, provide any sort of tests they want to do, and of course, work you through the training and decision on the products itself, which is the secondary kit, the eye product kit. And that allows you a chance to trial whatever products you choose, or your clinician chooses, or your AT specialist chooses. And once you decide that one works for you, you can simply keep it, and everything else is just picked up by us. So there's a return label in there. UPS comes and grabs it and takes it back. All they have to do is set it outside their home and give us a call. So this is relatively new. Again, because of COVID, this idea flourished, and there was a real need for it. And we're seeing that across all different realms of healthcare, where telehealth is really something that's being looked at, utilized more, and certainly should be. So this is just one more aspect that, again, provides that accessibility to those who may not have had that option before to get to these services. We can bring it to them. Okay. And then lastly, I promised to just kind of mention an overall of what the additional support is in the community and who else is on your team per se. So obviously agencies I've talked about, CNIB is prominent across Canada, as we know, and has an abundance of service and support that, again, Andrea and Mai touched on, and that's ever expanding. Of course, eye care professionals. So whenever I'm meeting with school boards, especially, I always try to remind them of the local low vision clinics that can provide additional support outside of maybe what the school has access to. Certainly some of these funding programs, it's different by province. And I know Mai went through a lot of these. The assistive devices program in Ontario, I'm quite innately familiar with because most of my customers use it. And certainly it's great coverage for the product itself, but other provinces have programs such as Step Sale, the RAMQ centers in Quebec that provide assistance as well. So it's good to know what is available there. And then lastly, I mentioned at the outset this notion of value-added resellers. And again, in the past, our work with Frontier, I've known Andrea for a long time, and we've worked hand in hand going into schools and working as a team to make sure that the products they want to see are available to be seen. That's only just become easier now. And again, that support, service, training, hopefully you'll only see increase as we move forward and students have these needs. Okay. So that is it for what we wanted to share. And it looks like we have plenty of time for additional questions. So maybe I'll pass it back to you, Doug, if you want to open the floor, or if there's anything specific that's come across in the chat.
Great, Ryan. Thank you. And thank you, Andrea and Mai, for your part of that presentation. Quite a lot of information there to digest, and a wide range of products that Eschenbach is able to bring to the table, plus the supports and services from CNIB and their various arms. I do want to remind people to add their questions into the chat through the Zoom chat, or feel free to unmute your microphone, and we'd be happy to bring you on by voice and allow you to converse and ask your questions that way. So again, just feel free at any moment to just unmute yourself, and I'll see the microphones come up here and or into the chat. So I know myself, Ryan, I owe you a debt of gratitude, because I now have I have to admit, I'm going to have to watch the replay of this to get the details, but at least I now know why the sky is blue. Yeah, 51 years I've been trying to figure out. In all seriousness, Ryan, there's an awful lot of science that goes into this kind of a support, vision supports, and a lot of stuff that we don't I don't think many of us stop and take notice of. We just we look at the features that are available for the on the end pieces of equipment for those that we support to use, and sometimes knowing a bit about the behind the scenes and what's going on can help us narrow our pun intended focus. So it's great to have some of this information.
Yeah, and as I mentioned at the outset, I'm just going to switch so everybody has our contact information if they need it. But in seeing the discussions within your group and amongst the members, I've also become much more knowledgeable of how much software, hardware. Wow, there's a lot to know in the AT specialty. That again, I'm certainly usually in my low vision bubble, so. I appreciate getting the information from time to time, and our talk from a couple of weeks ago and learning a little bit more, certainly. So the more everybody knows, as Mai had mentioned, knowledge is power. So I'm really glad we were provided the forum to be able to share what we could share, and I hope everybody gained something from it. And again, our contact information is here should questions arise, as I'm sure they will after today, and you can feel free to reach out with respect to products and that sort of thing. Andrea and Mai are probably the first contact in reaching out to look for products for your students. But certainly I'm readily available and can help as well if there's more direct questions for me, or certainly questions about students, or even best practices or other things that people might be doing. I'm always happy to share whatever I can.
Yeah, and is it okay? I just wanted to add, just for more clarification, that from Frontier's perspective. So I did mention that we are there to provide assistance to businesses as well as to education. And when it comes to education, we are here to provide those products and services to institution, for example, in education anyway, post-secondary institutions, to the institution themselves. So if the college or university is looking to outfit a library with some accessible technology, or a lab, or fulfill some sort of accommodation for a member of staff or something for the public, then we absolutely would be more than happy to fulfill that kind of requirement. And with Smartlife, with what Mai was explaining, is that because many assistive technologists, if you're dealing with a student, or a student has a bursary, it's that student's responsibility to go fulfill or procure their own equipment and then submit receipts for that bursary. And that's where Smartlife comes into play, because Smartlife, as Mai said, is there to provide that wonderful customer service and support and product knowledge for individuals, which is by definition what a student would be.
Thank you for that clarification, Andrea. It's Mai. Absolutely. So we are able to help the student on the Smartlife Center's end with our Smartlife coaches to, really help them take a look at what they're needing and taking a look at what their goals are, and really being able to provide that information of the technology, assistive technologies that they are needing in order to, really have it succeed with the goals that they're looking to help them with. So absolutely on our end.
Great, I appreciate that additional information there, Andrea and Mai. I suggest that we open up the Smartlife centers in the various locations where our members are across Ontario and all across Canada, and then that we have a road trip once COVID is saying it's safe to do. Feel like it would be a kid in a candy store being able to go into the Smartlife centers and try all these individual devices, and because although Ryan's pictures were beautifully displayed and quite informative with what they are, the hands-on is still not it's not the same as a hands-on, I should say. So I would expect Andrea or Mai can probably answer this. Is that I say it half jokingly, but I would expect that if an assistive technologist or disability support professional wanted to go into a Smartlife, again, excluding the COVID restrictions right now, wanted to go into one of your locations, is that an option to go in and be guided through the candy store?
Absolutely. So in Ontario, I do know that our Bayview location, it is open to appointment only. So they would simply call our Smartlife Bayview location or whatever location that they're closest to see if they are open for appointment only. And then from there, they can definitely show you the products that we actually have on hand as well, and give you that real hands-on experience with that device.
Come a long way since the days I remember the CNIB stores, the storefronts in my local area, and the catalogs that were put out.
That's right. Well, I think it's interesting to know, and it must be available somewhere on the CNIB Smartlife or CNIB website where there should be some pictures of what the new hubs look like. Is that right, Mai? Because it has a very inclusive feel. It's almost like an Apple store in some respect, and you can go through different areas of the home or in different environments, I would say, and see some of the accessible technology available in those areas as well. But there is like a large display table with lots of devices on it that you can actually, get your hands on and be able to experience.
That's right. So currently what we're working on is each of our locations, of course, different from size as well. So we're really wanting to make it all across Canada, a holistic feel, when you actually kind of like a Starbucks or an Apple store when you actually walk in. Currently right now, the Bayview office in Toronto is the only one that has that really great sort of branding, because they've got the space that showcases all the different types of technologies, but our other stores that may be a little bit Smartlife centers that may be a little bit smaller, they will still house that the equipment, but not in the most grand way as the Bayview office would be. But we are working across Canada in regards to having that space look very similar to the Bayview. So we're working right now with the Vancouver location as well as the Victoria location and the Alberta location as well.
And is the London location, has that been completed?
I do not know if the London location has been completed, but I believe the Barrie location is on its way.
Yes, yeah. So, it's getting there, but having spent some time in the hub at Bayview, I think it's a great new design and a really great way to interact with all the technology.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. I'm waiting for the London one to be done, and I know where my first road trip is. It's kind of a weird thing to what's the first place you want to take a trip to after lockdown is over?
So many places.
Yeah, I choose the Smartlife store. Anyways, just a reminder: if anybody wants to ask a question or make or voice a comment by unmuting their microphone, please go ahead. And again, in the chat as well, I noticed that Tammy in the chat has just made a very appropriate summary statement here of it's never the same as trialing in order to be able to understand the tool. Like there's nothing like hands-on. So
I absolutely agree with that as well.
Yeah. All right. So looks like we are coming to an end here. I know that there's been a lot of information that's been provided to us, and the product questions and questions about services and such have been very well explained here today. And I know at least speaking from my professional job is I think a lot of my questions would come when I have a specific case to apply it to, and whereas today it would be a lot of generic questions that really it's kind of hard to put out there without some context behind it. So with that said, the slide presentation that you team here today has put together for us, it will become part of the replay page, and therefore the product information for you to refer to. But more importantly, that contact page that was up with Ryan, Maya, and Andrea's information on it, so that you can reach out and ask those very direct situational based questions. So encourage people to do that once they have the details, when the students start flooding back into our campuses in September, and that's so. Yeah, and any other questions or thoughts from Andrea, Ryan, or Mai?
I just wanted to say thanks again, Doug. I really appreciated the time to get in front of your members and be able to share what we shared today. Again, hopefully it was helpful, and you put this together pretty quickly too, from our talk a couple of weeks ago to making it happen. So again, much thanks to you.
Great, and I appreciate the help that both both CNIB Frontier and yourself, Ryan, have given in putting this together. You're right, it did come together very quickly, and I'm grateful that we've been able to have this information presented to our members. So, Andrea and Mai, any other final thoughts as we wrap up today?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone that was able to join as well. You know, really being able to have the opportunity to speak to you about our CNIB Smart Life Centers and how we're working in terms of helping our community that is low vision and blind. Thank you very much.
Well, Doug, all I have to say is, you know, thanks so much, and I'll be seeing you next week.
This is true, and just as we do come to a close here, I will be reminding people that this is part 1 of 3. Andrea, Mai, Ryan, I really do want to thank you immensely for being here today and bringing this information to us. Andrea, you and I will be, as you just mentioned, joining each other again next Friday and the Friday after that, and looking at other service partners such as Eschenbach has today, and having them let us know the details of what they offer, as well as you'll be examining some other parts of the CNIB and the CNIB Frontier accessibility offerings. So I encourage everybody to, if you haven't already registered, is to please go on to the N.O.A.T event website and to register for those. There will be separate links for each week because they are different presentations. So just because you register for today doesn't necessarily mean you'll get an invite for next week unless you've registered for that as well. So please do that. And if there are any other final comments or questions, to people to sneak those into the chat or unmute their microphone as we bring things to definitely to a close here for today. And yeah, it's I guess the other thing that I'm kind of left with here is I'm going forward with a whole new meaning of what looking at life through rose-colored glasses are. So you've really you've definitely enlightened me, Ryan, on the blue, the sky being blue and rose-colored glasses. So.
Great, I did my part.
Yeah, and my dream is to move to Saskatchewan so that I can be take advantage of the SAIL program just based on its acronym. Yeah, they get top marks for creativity out there. So yeah, so again, thank you, Andrea, Mai, Ryan, your support of the assistive tech profession and the accessibility community, plus the network of assistive technologists. It's greatly appreciated. I do look forward to keeping that partnership and your support going. So anytime that you have information, please feel free to reach out, Ryan. And I know that Andrea, you will be definitely over the next few weeks as well. So, and Maya as well, please, if you have any information to share with our members, please send it our way. So, okay. So lastly, for everyone here today, I just want to thank you for joining us. And remember, everybody, you can't spell education without AT. So until next time, take care and stay safe.